Bramwell had Soren pinned. That was all Elowen's brain could register when she stepped back into the living room. Her 18-month-old son pressed against the golden retriever's massive face, small hands locked around the dog's muzzle, eyes squeezed shut. The dog wasn't moving, wasn't pulling away. For 3 terrible seconds, Elowen's heart stopped completely. But what she discovered on that baby monitor footage later that night would change the way she saw everything. The dog, her son, and herself. Before we go any further, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who loves dogs, and subscribe so you never miss another story like this. 1. It had been a hard week. The kind of week where every small thing, a dropped sippy cup, a missed nap, a work deadline that didn't care that she was also a mother, stacked itself into something that felt like a wall. Elowen worked from home in the converted spare bedroom, the one still half filled with boxes they'd never unpacked from the move 14 months ago. The desk was buried under invoice printouts and a baby monitor she kept meaning to reposition. Dog hair drifted across the hardwood floors in slow golden curls. Bramwell had been theirs for 6 years. Longer than the marriage, longer than the house, longer than Soren. He was a steady presence, a warm body that moved from room to room without being asked, content to drape himself across doorways or beneath high chairs. He and Soren had found their rhythm early, the baby reaching, grabbing, occasionally using Bramwell's flank as a push-to-stand surface, and Bramwell tolerating all of it with the resigned grace of a dog who had simply decided this was his life now. But that Tuesday, the Tuesday everything almost went wrong. Soren had tripped near the coffee table before lunch. A small thing, a wobble, a smack of forehead against the edge, a second of wide-eyed silence before the wail arrived. Elowen had scooped him up, checked for blood, found only a faint pink mark above his left eyebrow, kissed it 4 times, and set him down again. She'd gone back to her laptop. Work didn't pause for soft tissue bumps. What she didn't notice was that Bramwell, who had been napping in the corner, had raised his head the moment Soren fell. He hadn't looked away since. By mid-afternoon, the living room had taken on that particular texture of late-day toddler disaster. Board books splayed open on the rug, a half-eaten rice cracker crumbled near the couch leg. One small sock inexplicably on top of the television stand. Soren was in that dangerous, beautiful stage where he believed he could walk faster than his legs actually worked. He'd been fine all afternoon. Probably she'd been in and out. I just need 5 minutes, Elowen told herself, turning toward the kitchen to refill her coffee. The monitor was right there on the counter. She could hear him babbling. She could hear Bramwell's collar tags shifting. She was gone for less than 60 seconds. When she came back, the coffee mug was still in her hand, but her body had frozen in the doorway. Soren was standing directly in front of Bramwell, not beside him, not near him, but directly in front of the dog's face. Both of the toddler's small hands were clenched around Bramwell's muzzle, fingers digging into the fur. His forehead was pressed against the dog's with a firmness that looked deliberate and strange and wrong. Soren's eyes were shut. Bramwell hadn't moved. The size difference hit her first. Bramwell's broad golden head was nearly as wide as Soren's entire torso. Elowen's throat closed. "Bram," she started. She took 1 step forward and then something stopped her. The dog's eyes weren't fixed on Soren with warning or aggression. Bramwell was looking at her. And his body, she couldn't explain it at the time, couldn't have named it. His body was somehow braced, not aggressive, braced, like a wall that had decided to be a wall. She crossed the room slowly. Soren made a small sound, not distress, something closer to comfort. Elowen knelt beside them and put her hand on her son's back, taking his weight forward into her own arms. Only then, the moment she had him, did Bramwell exhale and slowly ease his body down onto the rug. His tail moved once. Her hands were shaking, and she didn't entirely know why. She told herself he'd just been tired. Told herself the whole thing had been nothing. A toddler being weird, a dog being patient. No harm done. She put Soren in his chair with a snack and went back to her laptop. But it sat wrong in her chest the rest of the evening. That posture. That stillness. At 9:30 that night, after Soren was asleep and the house had settled into its familiar quiet hum, Eowyn pulled up the baby monitor app on her phone, the living room feed. She scrolled back to that afternoon window, moving the timestamp bar until she found the frame she was looking for. Soren and Bramwell on the rug. She watched it 3 times before she understood what she was seeing. Just before Soren had stepped toward Bramwell, he had wobbled. Not a big wobble, something subtle, a sideways list that lasted maybe half a second. The kind of micro-instability a tired toddler didn't even register. The kind a distracted adult watching from across the room would never catch. The footage showed the dog shifting his front paws 12 inches to the left, repositioning his body at an angle, a deliberate, calculated shift, so that when Soren leaned forward, he was leaning into something solid. Bramwell hadn't just allowed the contact. He had positioned himself to receive it. The frozen posture wasn't confusion or aggression or tolerance. It was structural support. The dog had felt the instability in the child's body and placed himself beneath it. The fall that would have happened was the fall from earlier that day. Replayed. The same unsteady forward lean. The same hard corner of the coffee table directly behind where Soren had been standing. If Bramwell hadn't moved, if he had pulled away the way any spooked dog might have, Soren would have gone down backward into that corner again. But harder this time, on a direct angle, with the full momentum of a wobbling fall behind him. Eowyn sat on the couch in the dark for a long time with her phone in her hands. She thought about how many times that week she had said, "He's fine," before checking. How many times she had assumed Bramwell's hovering was neediness rather than notice. She thought about the bark he had given earlier in the morning. Short, sharp from the hallway, that she'd silenced with a firm Bram enough without ever looking up from her screen. What had he been watching then? She set the phone down on the cushion and looked across the room to where Bramwell was curled on his bed, head resting on his paws, watching her with the patient, ancient calm that big dogs sometimes carry. "I didn't see it," she said aloud. "Not to anyone in particular. Maybe to the room." Bramwell's tail moved once. She crossed to him and sat down on the floor beside his bed, something she hadn't done in months. He rested his chin on her knee without being asked. She stayed there until it was late enough that she should have gone to bed, and then she stayed a little longer. And here's the part that matters beyond this story, because what happened in that living room happens in small ways in homes everywhere, every day. We move through our spaces assuming the danger will announce itself loudly. We think risk will look dramatic. We forget that the people around us, and sometimes the animals, are reading a frequency we've stopped tuning into. Dogs communicate before the crisis, not during it. Bramwell's body shift on that footage lasted less than 2 seconds. But that's what instinct looks like from the outside. Small, quiet, easy to dismiss. When a dog hovers near a child who has recently been hurt, when it positions its body between a toddler and a hard surface, when it refuses to leave a room it was told to leave, that's not disobedience. That's data. The takeaway isn't that you need your dog to catch every fall. The takeaway is that attention is the thing. Check the corners of the room you step out of. Listen to the bark before you silence it. Look at what the dog is looking at before you decide it's nothing. We are not always the most alert person in the house. The footage stayed on Eowyn's phone for years. She never posted it anywhere. It wasn't for anyone else. It was a private record of one afternoon in an ordinary house where something bad almost happened and something loyal quietly made sure it didn't, while the adult in the room was getting coffee. Sometimes protection doesn't look like a hero. Sometimes it looks like a dog shifting his paws 2 inches to the left in a room no one was watching. Sometimes what we mistake for stillness is the most active thing in the room. And sometimes the one who sees the most clearly is the one we stop bothering to look at. If this story opened your eyes, don't forget to like this video, drop a comment about a moment your pet surprised you, and subscribe for more stories like this. 1. Share it with someone who has a dog and a little one at home, because sometimes the most important guardian in the house is the one sleeping on the floor.